had to get going, sorry. Is there more people out there?
Yeah.
Okay. Appreciate it.
So, grab my card.
All right, so welcome back, everybody. I hope you're all got the bugs out a little bit. I know our audience has dwindled a little bit. Some people have to get on ferries, some people have to get work. So next up, we have Corrina Duffit, who will be presenting once again. This time on the topic of how to choose a high-tech device and how funding works for both children and adults. She's hiding way in the back of the room.
I just didn't realize you were recording. You're going to chime in.
Yeah, if you need us.
Without further ado,
We're the back.
Pass the mic to you.
I don't think it's terribly redundant, but we'll see. Okay. So, I don't know if we have any preschool families here right now, do we?
Yes, there was.
You do. Okay, so we have preschoolers. Where do we start? The first thing we're going to do is we need to build a team of professionals, right? This is not easy. If your child is in preschool, oh my gosh, I put speech language pathologists because I can guarantee you there will not just be one. There's probably going to be the speech path from your original outreach. There's a speech path at Sunny Hill if you get involved with. There's speech pathologists everywhere. They don't all know about AAC. So you do want to find someone who knows about AAC and is familiar. You're going to have an occupational therapist, which is essential for seating and positioning. Your physiotherapist. Sometimes there's a CV specialist. There are mounting services and vision specialists in the team. It's a big team to support a child with exceptional needs. Also, if you're in preschool, you probably want to find someone who's on the RASP list so you can use your autism funding, right? RASP is the Registered Autism Service Provider for kids under 6. And I just got notification that I need to renew mine, or I won't get paid. I can do that too.
Something about what you've done.
And yeah, you can do a search for an AAC SLP in your area. Just check online. There are lots of resources today. Yeah, go through Speech and Hearing BC. Hopefully, speech pathologists are saying that they specialize in AAC now on the RASP list. I hope so. Yeah. If your child is school aged and you're starting your communication journey there, and I hope that you're not. Start early, right? But if you are school age, then you'll have a school-based SLP, hopefully an AAC consultant, depending on which district you're in. You're probably also going to have a private SLP because
We can't do it.
because there's a good chance you're not getting any therapy at school.
No.
I hate to say that, but it's true.
Yeah.
The caseloads are just gigantic. And these ladies back here are stretched to the limit, and it's a consultative service. So there will not be therapy at school. There might be guidance and consultation, but it won't be therapy, okay? You'll have your school team, so your EAs, the teacher, there will be an occupational therapist, most likely from the Center for Child Development involved, and a physiotherapist as well. And if needed, a vision teacher. And if it's the device you're looking for, then SET BC or Special Education Technology of BC will get involved, okay? Yeah?
I was just going to say, if you have a vision specialist or teacher and you have a diagnosis of cortical visual impairment, ask if the vision teacher does know anything about CVI, because they don't all know that. And you need someone who has a background in CVI.
And again, the sad thing is, and I know this from experience, that oftentimes there are teachers, vision teachers, but they're also, again, it's a consultative caseload. And the therapy that a child with a cortical visual impairment needs in order to progress is not really provided, but strategies will be. It doesn't mean that the people on the general school team can carry through with all of that, and right? And it is time consuming, and it can be difficult to find the right team of professionals for your daughter, for your child, right? It can be, it's hard. And also, just because SETBC gets involved does not mean that you're going to get a device. That's also a sad reality, okay? I did not say, wait now. I thought I had something there about adults, or maybe not, let's see. And then if you are post-secondary, or not post-secondary, if your daughter has graduated from high school, then it's Kaya that gets involved. And I do know, because I've seen it, I know that they will come in with a new device if they know what your child is using. And I also have worked with a family where I worked with one sister, but the older sister had gone through her entire educational career and never got any kind of communication device. And I know that they came in and they provided one for her, but there was very little training and there's no intervention. So unfortunately that one is sitting in the cupboard. So, but Kaya is for, post-grade 12. Okay, and then I feel like working with this, like I've worked with this population now for 5 or 6 years quite intensely, and I feel like the parents are really knowledgeable, really well educated, really knowledgeable, and you know what you want, you know what your daughter needs. That's what I have experienced so far. And sometimes parents are afraid to let professionals and teams know what they want for their kids. And my advice to you would be just communicate what you want as early as possible, because one, you're going to get rid of professionals that are not going to do this, right? Like I can't tell you how many times I've met with a team and I've been told, yeah, that SLP told me that, no, you know what, you need to go to an occupational therapist and have her regulate it first before I can work with her. What? So you're gonna figure out from your team who's gonna stay and who's gonna go. Good job. Thanks, Kayla. So let them know. Let them know you want to consider technology. You want to consider assistive technology. It's really important to you. It's important to your child's communication journey. And you want to start building communication skills. Again, another thing that you're going to, hopefully not anymore, but you're going to be told, if it's a little one, that she's too young. We're not going to do eye gaze with her. She's only 3. I have families that contact me as soon as their kids are diagnosed, and we get on that right away. We're not wasting any time, because typically developing children don't waste any time learning language. Why should your daughter? Right? So you want to start building those communication skills. And you want that team that's capable and able to determine where your daughter is now, what kind of access methods we can try now to get going, right? We do have, kids can still be ambulatory and using their hands when they're really little, right? And we don't really know. You don't know with every child what that progression, what that journey is going to look like. Like I said earlier, I've got a little girl with Rett syndrome, and she is so mobile, and she uses her hand to direct select. And they didn't know that when she was 2, that would still be her journey, right? She's 12, I believe.
Is she isolated finger?
Yeah, yeah. She is, yeah. She's very, very mobile. I spent a lot of time chasing her. Anyway, okay. You want your team to know, you want them to know that I want to start introducing symbols. I want her to be making choices. How do I do this? How do I know what she wants? Those are the questions that parents ask, right? Like the new diagnosis, parents are just torn apart with, I'm this child's parent. I don't know what she wants. She's crying. right? How do I do this? How do I make this better? And I think you just need to have that team around you that's going to help you to help her make choices. Help her to understand that, oh my gosh, when you look at me like that so intently, that's a yes, I know you want that, right? And it's because a lot of what happens is going to happen outside of a therapy session, right? It's what you're doing all day long. And it's little things, little strategies that you can be using all day long that are helping to shape and build your child's communication skills, right? What you do in therapy is 1 hour a week, if you're lucky. And you can't stop there, right? It has to be something that becomes a part of your lifestyle. Some of this is repetitive, right? We want you to teach yes and no. Discover what your child's best yes is, or best no, right? Parents know their kids better than any therapist that's ever going to walk through the door, right? You probably already know. So when you're playing with your child, when you're talking to them, when you're reading to them, how do they react, right? What are they looking at? What are they laughing at? I just had, and I feel like Christina, you may have seen this, but one of our little ones just turned 4. And her mom posted a beautiful Instagram post for her. And one of the things that she has learned to do is to close her eyes to say I love you. And she will close them differently for I love you than for anything else. So it's like a true, like this, like she scrunches her face up and then she'll open them and just stare right at her mom and dad, right? And it's the parents that figure all of this out. Like half the time we're just asking you, like I'll ask you, well, what did she do when, she really wants a toy, right? Because I don't know. And, mom and dad will say, yeah, she'll just stare at that. She's going to stare at that, and then she's going to look at me, and then she's going to stare at that. Okay, so really, you know what? She's already telling you what she wants. She's already making a choice, right? And I bet already you're saying, oh, boy, you're really looking at that a long time. I think you want it. You're already starting the process, right? So what we don't want, I think that the professionals in this room, what we don't want is for any of you to have someone say to you, your daughter's not ready for this. Your daughter can't do that, right? So make it clear when you're starting out and you're looking for a team that, no, you know what? I know she can, and I know she's ready, and we need to start now because we can't wait forever. Jennifer.
I think, too, is that AAC is a very specialized area, and so if you can find an SLP who has some background in AAC, but the most important thing is that if you have the feeling when you talk to them that they believe your child is capable of doing more, that's what you want. Because if they have that belief in your child, they'll figure out, they'll learn things, they'll try things because they know that your child can do those things. And we learn as we go too. Our field is so big that we're constantly learning new things. And so even though they might not have all the exact knowledge of how to use an IGA system, or if they have the knowledge of the principles of AAC and believe that your child can do more, that's the type of person that you're looking for on your team.
Yeah. So if they're starting to tell you no, then it might be time to look for a different profession. That's my point in this, yeah.
Or challenge them.
Or challenge them, too, yeah,
seriously,
for
because
sure.
they can be better speech pathologists too, right?
Yes.
Like, dig deep, look in, see what you can do, because...
Yeah, but don't waste too much time.
No.
Don't waste too much time.
No.
And I'm going to tell you a brief little story about, so I work with, this is not the same 4-year-old, but I work with another family. The little one is 3. And they called me right when she was diagnosed. And I'm not kidding, both mom and dad were like, how does this even work? Right? They were like, she doesn't use her hand, and a year later, we are trialing, thanks to Arlene, who has made so many things possible with technology. We're trialing, but not only are we trialing, this child has a yes/no, that's really clear. She can make choices with objects. She can make choices with an eye gaze board. There's lots of modeling going on, and so my last bit, mom just had a baby, And so our last visit, my mom was like, or the mom was like, I need you to go in to the school because I don't think they're doing this. And honestly, if they're not carrying through with all of this, then this is not the person I need on this team. And I'm like, okay, my job here is done. Right, because now I have parents who went from, I don't know what, to being like really strong advocates for their daughter. And they are not going to be wasting any time with people at the school level who will not carry through on what the professionals on the team are saying they should do. Okay? Which I just thought was the best. Like, it's almost better than seeing the kid do something with a device. It's like, yes, the parents are now advocates, right? Yeah, so we don't want to wait. We want to get these kids right away and get them going with language, because that's where your best outcomes are, right? It's when you start early. Okay, there's more. Knowing about access methods, right? Can your child point still? Can they grab at things? A lot of our girls don't have great dexterity, but they can still do a swat or a grab, and why not use that, right? We're going to use what we can. Eye gaze is just very strong with this whole group of girls, right from the get-go. It's so strong. Can they nod or shake their head? How do they show you yes? What can we do? What's the most natural thing for them to do? Like I said earlier, I've got a little one, her yes is her legs popping up. And it's her natural go-to, right? So we're going to use that. How can I get some AAC devices to encourage communication and participation, especially once preschool starts, right? Like, where can I get a Big Mac? Where can I get a step-by-step? If I think here, the Center for Child Development at the preschool age, whoever that interventionist is, should be able to get you some simple tools to use at the preschool level. There are so many iPad apps now that are available that are simple, like you can do like a Big Mac pretty much on an iPad. Have you all seen what the Big Macs are? Yeah, just simple buttons, right, that are usable. And then there are other things like power links and alternate spinners, which we didn't bring. But they're great. Like a power link, you can put a switch. You put a switch in one side, and then you can plug in anything like a fan or blow dryer, anything that plugs in. You can make it switch accessible, right? So just knowing that these things are out there, and I would like for my daughter to try these things and have them available so that she can participate to the fullest. I have some pictures down here.
Corrina was going to say those power links are awfully great when you've got a daughter in like grade 6, 7, and she wants to do her nails, and you set up a nail salon, and she can hit a switch or somehow to have the nail blower go, and all of a sudden she's been hitting the entire class.
Yeah, but I mean, even much earlier, like I know a lot of our girls have smoothies in their lives because of swallowing and gastro issues. Well, you know what? You can make your blender go really easily with that thing, right? You can be involved from day one, right? Another big question is, who makes symbols for me? How do I get symbols prepared? Who's going to do that? Ask on your team, like who's going to do that? Who's making my symbols? Right? Because parents don't have often the programs they need to make symbols. They're expensive subscription programs, and we all have them. So yeah, you want someone on your team who can do that for you and do it in a fairly timely manner, right? You shouldn't be waiting a month to get symbols printed off so that you could be modeling to your child and offering choices. Where can I find adapted toys? Where can you find adapted toys? I do know that Makers Making Change here in the Lower Mainland, do they send toys out, or do they make switches and give those out? Yeah, it might be a little mixture of both. So Makers Making Change.
If you've got some toys, you can
they will adapt them for you.
Yes.
Yeah. And then I know I'm not the only one who's trying to adapt toys at home and make them more available for kids. But it is like, it's not a difficult thing to do. I say that now because my children are grown. So I do think I would not be doing that if I had a young child at home with special needs. But I know we're trying to make that all more accessible. It's not something you're going to find at school. I've only encountered, one of the little 4-year-old I was telling you about just turned 4. Her preschool teacher has gone above and beyond for this child. It's the only time I've ever seen it. They have purchased switch adapted toys. Her husband has switch adapted toys, but they're expensive and they're hard to find. But I do feel like the community here is making a bigger effort to make those available at low cost. So, because that's what kids do, they play. That's how they learn through play, right? Okay, so just a few pictures. Here's a Big Mac. This is a power link. So you can see right here, actually make this thing happen. You plug in here, and then you just plug your switch in on the side, and you can turn anything into a switch adapted device. This is an alternate spinner. So with an alternate spinner, you can make these little overlays with symbols. You can probably put little objects on them. You could use photos. You can use letters and shapes and colors. And then you hit the switch and it spins. It's a random selection thing, right? So, for instance, in preschool, maybe your daughter is the one that decides who's going to be at the beginning of the line going outside, right? There's always a million ways you can use these things if you're creative enough. But where to find them? Someone on your team should know. Okay? I have. That's Makers Making Change. Yeah. Yeah. And I think they're really great at it, and they do a lot of 3D printing now, right, which is amazing. You can 3D print a switch. Yeah, and I've seen that. They've done that for a lot of kids. But I don't think they provide toys, but I think you can bring toys in and they'll adapt them for you.
Yeah, they made one where it's a conducted toy for you to grab and switch grab it.
Right. Right. Nice. Yeah. So it's good to know that those resources are there, but really, like 3 years ago, I don't think I knew that Makers Making Change was there. Yeah. Yeah. So you need to have people on your team that can direct you where to do these things, right? This is just symbols. I think symbols are a big deal, right? Like, who's making these pictures for me? Okay. And then high tech. So this is backwards. I swear when you do it at home and you plug it in somewhere else, it's just not the same. Okay, so what is high tech? So high tech is a technology-based alternative communication method. It's electronic. It has voice output. It's going to have a battery. It's going to need charging, right? Very programmable and customizable. Uses specialized software. It's dynamic, so when you press a button, something happens, right? A lower tech device, you press a button and it's going to say something to you, but nothing else is going to happen, right? It's just a really fancy picture symbol that has voice behind it. So they're usually really expensive.
Yeah.
Right?
Which ones?
The high-tech devices, they're expensive, yeah. And you need to update them and maintain them. They break, right? So, but they are also wonderful, life-altering devices. Okay? There's always pros and cons. We know that, right? And I think the top one is an accent. This is that might be a pilot, although it could be the tablet-based one on the left and right here. And I think the other one is a Forbes device, a Win Slate maybe, or a Pro Slate. Not sure. Okay. So high tech, we typically think of it in terms of tablet-based and dedicated. Okay. So a tablet-based would be an iPad or a Surface Pro, something like that, right? You can buy cases and straps. You can have them mounted. All of it is extra, but still a lot cheaper than a dedicated device. Okay. And then they would use an app that you would purchase separately. There are so many communication apps out there now, which is another reason why you need someone on your team who is well versed in at least most of those, so that they can kind of help you narrow down what you want to try, what you want to look at. Okay?
And if you decide, like if you decided on the app and you have to purchase it as a parent, there are 2 months of the year, October and
April, May.
April or May, where the apps come on half price.
Yeah.
So
Twice a year.
you bet
Speech and hearing month and then.
Twice a year.
twice a year.
Twice a
May
year.
May and October.
May and
Well,
October, yeah.
April, depending on what.
And it's a big deal because some of those apps are like, well, $400 or $500. I don't know if Grid 3 is included in that.
No, not usually.
Grid 3 is not, and Grid 3 is about 900 Canadian, I believe. Yeah. Yeah.
But when you think
Yeah.
about what it does, that's actually, when you think about what computer
Well, they're
programs
all
cost,
great.
that's not
Oh,
that big a deal.
no,
And once
I know,
you,
but-
as long as it, I mean,
That's
it's
a lot.
expensive, but there's a lot in it, that's
Yes.
why it's expensive.
But that's also why it's really important to have someone who can help you look at those apps and determine which one, is best, will be best suited for you and for your child, because let's be honest with ourselves, you're gonna be using that app a lot too, so you have to be comfortable with the
Yeah.
app. Honestly, as a speech therapist, I have apps that I will not touch with like a 10-foot pole, although one of them has improved greatly and now I'm not so adverse to it, but everybody has a preference, right? That's the way it is. So yeah, they're usually less expensive. And the access, with most of them, you can access them through direct selection, through switches, and increasingly, the eye gaze is becoming more accessible. So the newest versions of the iPad, I'm going to say from maybe 9 up,
Yeah.
are going to be accessible via eye gaze when the iOS 18 update comes out in the fall. That said, I haven't been able to try that because it's not available yet. It's probably being betaed by someone. And we know what Apple is like they'll go through a whole bunch of updates before that's going to be really good to use. But it is an option if you cannot get a dedicated device through funding, right? It's good that there are options at every level, I think.
It depends on the app too that you're using, so touch chat you can use.
Sorry?
Touch chat can
You
use
can
it on
use
the iPad Pro.
Head.
That's right.
Yeah, head
On the
tracking.
Pro, the head tracking?
It's a head tracker, so we
Yeah.
just triangulate stuff with the camera,
Yeah.
into the eyes and the nose.
Yes.
And it does work. Right.
Yes, I have a student who's using head tracking, not a student with Rett syndrome, but they are using the head tracking. But the eye tracking is not quite available on the iPad yet.
But just,
Yeah,
again,
but the
features.
Surface Pro, yes. Well, the Surface Pro actually has to use an extra camera, right? Yes. Yeah, do you want me to hold that up? Okay. I can't remember what this is, but but anyway. So this is the Surface Pro, which is the Windows tablet, uses an external camera and the software. But the new iOS, the new Apple update that's coming out will not require anything extra, just your iPad.
It just uses the
Okay.
camera technology to
Yes.
get it in.
Apparently all they did was change where the camera was.
Oh, because it's offset.
Yeah, they offset it and you can use it if they put it in portrait mode. Apparently it was very simple for them to do. I can't wait to try it out. I'm excited to see how that works, but yeah. Okay, so I think that's something that's just going to get better and better. The eye gaze with like the Apple products, I'm sure that with time they're gonna work all the things out and it's going to be quite accessible. So that is probably a Toby product. Honestly, I'm looking at it, I'm like, I don't know which one that is. I can tell you that TV is on, TV Snap is on there, TV Motor Plan is on there. It's probably a Toby product.
Yeah.
Yeah, in case. Another Toby product. I don't know. That's probably a PRC something.
That's a VIA Pro,
That's a VIA.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say.
Isn't that awful? This looks like a Surface Pro, or it could be not.
No, that's
No.
Oh, it's the other one. A Go Grid.
It's a grid, isn't
It's
it?
Grid.
Grid 14 or something.
oh, mine's not up there. So this is it.
They're all tablet based. I thought I'd remember them, but now they all just look the same. Okay. All right. And then there's the dedicated devices. Dedicated units are lovely if you know one. They really are. So these are produced solely for the purposes of communication, and you've probably had a chance to see what Arlene has back there, and I think there's also a Toby eye something back there. So they're integrated units, right? So the speakers are built in, the eye gaze is built in. It's not an extra camera that you need to put on or an extra speaker that you need to buy. They're heavier, but now they're a lot lighter now than they used to be. They used to be so heavy, and now they're like 2 pounds or something.
The grid was so heavy before.
Well, the grid pad still actually feels quite heavy to me, but it's lovely.
It's like
But I think they, like the new ones, they're not that heavy anymore. Yeah, they used to seem like they were. They're definitely more expensive. Yeah, they're definitely more expensive. At least like 2 to 3 times more expensive. But they are lovely to use. And one of the other differences is that you will get training and tech support and warranty. And I can tell you right now that Arlene from PRC Saltillo has been amazing to work with. Anytime there's a problem, I email her, call her up, and she's on it right away. Yeah, so it's great to have that. Like if you're going to buy an iPad and use it, you're kind of on your own. If it breaks, you're fixing it. Yeah. Oh, is that for me? Yeah. Okay. So this is a grid pad. I have a student using the biggest grid pad, baby. Is it the biggest one? Yeah. It's beautiful, but oh my God, it's heavy. This is a Wind Slate or a Pro Slate from Forbes, and I don't know which one it is. I think the Wind Slate might be dedicated. One of them is a tablet and one of them is not. And Forbes is just another AEC company out of the United States that used to be, Forbes just bought some of the village. I can't remember who it is. That is a Toby, probably an I-13 and an I-16, I'm not sure. And this is an Accent 1400. Yeah. So I can say that I've used 3 of those. I've never used a Forbes like a Wind Slate or a Pro Slate. But
Forbes isn't that popular here. And
no, it's not that popular here.
So in the States as well, and it's kind of iffy because they, yeah, I'm not going to go there.
Yeah. I can't remember who they bought. They bought someone else.
Yeah.
But anyway. Yeah. So there's lots of different options out there, right? It can be really overwhelming. And trialing them. So it would be, I personally suggest to my families that you trial one of each. Trial a tablet-based one and trial an integrated one and see, a dedicated one, and see how you feel about each one of them, because there are definitely pros and cons. I would say that most of my kids are using a dedicated device, for sure. Here in BC, you're going to probably contact the Sunny Hill Assistive Technology team first, and hopefully they'll have something available to loan you. They're pretty good about their loans. They're not necessarily all that long, although they'll give you an extension. I think they'll let you have it for maybe 60, I think it's about 2 months. Because I just had a family ask for an extension, and I think they've had it for 2 months. So you can always reach out to the vendors because they're amazing.
Yes.
It's
Somebody will
amazing.
borrow from me. If you need one and they don't have it, they will ask me how to send it to them.
Right. So the vendors would be Toby Dunbox representative Marley Bell, who's not here today, she couldn't come, and Arlene Hansen from PRC Saltillo. And I asked you for a trial device, and I pretty much have it like 3 days later. Yeah, and you haven't asked me back to send it back yet. It's great. It gives you lots of time.
But they give you their time.
Because you get lots of time, and that's what you need, right? You need time. So I'm going to show you when you get to school age, you do not get this time.
It
Okay?
takes time.
It takes time. You can't expect anyone to know in 21 days.
I don't expect you to know eye gaze and everything in 6 weeks.
No.
So we touch base in 6 weeks and see how you do.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's nice that when you reach out to the vendors, I've never asked for the AAC, but I'm sure if you're in the States, they'll send you. I know that they will, actually, but I've never done that here. Again, there's the Apple that's coming. Who knows how that's going to work. Again, I think in a few years it'll be fine, but we'll see.
Probably sooner than a few years.
Probably sooner.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know, it's all moving so fast now.
The world is moving very fast.
Oh my gosh, I remember when I was doing my, my externship, one of my clinical externships. I externed with Lorraine Camp,
Oh, yeah.
and they were still using stickers.
Oh, I
And
know.
they would take the stickers out of
Oh,
the
I
book
know.
and build a communication.
Out and colouring them in too.
Hey, I used to color in symbols.
Yeah.
I'm hoping I don't look that age, but yeah, I have it.
And now we're here, where everything is moving so quickly in terms of technology, right?
Yeah.
So school-aged trialing. If you're in a public school, you're going to go to your school-based team. Your SLP is going to go to the school-based team, and they're going to want to put, you know, your child forth for an AAC device, but that's with SEPBC. Okay. So then, SEPBC does not communicate with parents. They're not called upon to communicate with parents. So this whole thing could be happening and you might not even know, right? So ask to be kept in the loop if it's
Some CBC people do communicate.
okay.
It
But they don't
depends
have
on
to.
it depends
I
on
have-
the size of the district, right?
Okay. I have actually been told that's not SEPBC's role to communicate with the parents. It's actually the team at school that should be doing that. But so I'm just saying that so that you know that's happening. Ask to be kept in the loop, right? You have a right to know what's going on with your child's communication at school. And if SEPBC says no, you can reach out to the vendors. Normally, a SEPBC trial is 21 days long.
And it's 21 days as the day they ship it from
And they don't
CBC.
care about weekends. Weekends are included in the 21 days.
And if you're lucky enough to get it the week before Christmas, well, bad luck.
No.
That's what
I
happens.
think it's how you ask and from which particular district, I'm just saying.
Or who your representative
Yeah.
is could also be a factor in that.
Yes.
But I certainly remember it being a 21-day thing. Yeah, and you can ask for an extension again, but if that isn't, if the device is in high demand, they can say no to you.
That's the issue.
Yeah. Yeah. And then again, if you're out of the school system, then Kaya is who you will contact. I've only had really positive interactions with Kaya. But again, they're not going to provide intervention, and the training is kind of limited to what they have, right? So, but this is why you need that team.
Sorry.
Okay,
Do you want to say anything? They make a lot of promises about training that does not happen.
Right.
They're limited on the staffing is,
Yeah.
I mean, there's just, it's a sad journey, right? We get smaller
Yeah.
as we get older.
Yeah.
And just to know, if as a parent or your own child, you don't have to go through a doctor to be referred to Kaya BC. You just go on the website, it's there,
Refer
and
yourself.
you can self-refer
Yeah,
or
that's
parents
right.
can refer.
You don't. I don't think you can self-refer to SEPBC though. I think it's your
No.
school-based team that's going to
Yeah,
do it.
no, it's
And just because the referral's gone in and you've done a trial and it's successful does not mean that your child's getting advice, unfortunately. Yeah. Okay. So then funding. Preschool, you can use your portion of your autism funding. So you do get $22,000 a year from autism funding. And you can use 20% of that a year for technology. It'll fund most of the system. Of course, you have other things you have to do with that funding. So I know with some of my families, they'll put aside that 20% and they'll leave it. And sometimes what they do is right before the turnover, right before the birthday, they'll purchase a part of that device because then the new year starts, or the new funding year starts, and they can get whatever is remaining out of that, right? If that makes sense. Does that make sense? You right close, yeah. Okay. Private insurance might cover something, but I don't know. In Canada, that's a bit iffy. I have had some private insurance companies contribute or cover a portion of it, but honestly, it's not much.
I've had a couple of
And then school age, your autism funding goes down to $6,000. And again, it's 20% that can be allocated. And so I feel like this is the, sorry.
You should also be able to get at-home funding.
Yeah, but at-home funding does not allow you to buy any technology.
No,
It's
but-
only for,
But you could use that for the therapies.
Yes, yes.
Use it for therapy.
but you can still only use 20% of the 6,000. You can only use 20% for, yeah. That said, I've had parents call up autism funding and say, look, we need this. But I do also feel like this is that group that might really benefit from technologies like the iPad coming through with eye gaze, if you can somehow get yourself a dedicated device. Tammy, I can see your wheels turning.
Yeah, I'm just, I mean, as I was saying, there's so many devices, like I have devices on shelves that are, you know, they're older devices that could be tools, that could be trial and use. I mean, I think, and because they're passed into our care, I don't know what you guys got in your district, but I kept them, right? Like, I don't know, I can't throw stuff out. But they're tools that, you know, I don't know,
Absolutely.
if somebody could get their guts in there and read the older manuals, that stuff still could work. And it's there to try, and that's like,
Yeah.
I'd be happy to find, I was also thinking with IDAC, as far as a contact, we should put on IDAC, because as our collective group would be very interested in supporting any of the challenges you might be facing and bringing some of those pieces up. Oh, yeah, yeah. And not that they're, but something, there's something to start with.
Right, right. And that's the thing, you have to get started, right?
Yeah.
I find that the preschool age group, there's almost like Sunny Hill, like right away, if they got it, they're like, yep, we're gonna send that out. But they will ask you if you have a team working with you, because they are a little bit nervous about sending a device out to a family where there's no SLP, no OT, right? Because they're only gonna come out once or twice and show you how to set that up and have the OT look at positioning, and then they're not gonna do any intervention. They're not gonna run that trial, right? Right, and then back to autism, like you can get new technology like an iPad every 3 years with your autism funding. You can't apply any more than that. But I mean, really, with the way technology is going today, that's all you want to be using it for anyway. And I also think SetBC has changed theirs from 5-year term to a 3-year term.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So now every 3 years you can apply for a new device.
And 3 years, equipment is passed into districts.
Yeah, goes back
Right? So
to the
no,
district,
it
so that
sits
you
with
have
us.
something that
So
is 3
I've
years old,
received
but.
stuff back that not being used.
Absolutely, and yeah, some of those devices after 3 years are still in great shape.
Yes.
They're not like the cutting edge,
Yes.
but they're still really, really good, especially to start to try something on, right?
Especially if they have hardly been used, right?
Yeah, yeah, because some of them are hardly even used, yeah. Right, and again, all I have here is Kaya. And I don't even know what the funding is, I have no idea. But I have had teams come in, like I said, and provide a scanning, auditory scanning brand new to a person with no team, unfortunately. But so I don't know what the funding limit is, or if there is any such thing. Yeah, I have no idea.
It's not so much a limit. What they want to see is that just because a child has eye gaze equipment in grade 12 or the grade year, they're not automatically going to, if that child isn't really using the eye gaze equipment, they're not going to spend their limited funding on providing that for them. They will provide something else. They'll do another assessment and look at, but it doesn't mean that that means you can't ever get eye gaze back again. But my thing is, if your child's approaching the time to leave, make sure they're really using their device.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. Okay. And then conducting the trial. So you want to have a device for at least 60 days, right? 21 days is not enough at all. So try to get the extension if you can. Yeah. And then you and your child's team, you need to be trained in how to set that device up, how to position them. You will be shown how to calibrate if it's an eye gaze, but you don't really need to calibrate every time your child sits in front of it, really. You just need to have them positioned properly. Calibration can be painful for a child to have to do in the beginning, right? And often I'll calibrate it for my eyes, but as long as they're, or I'll have a family member do it, because oftentimes the shape of the face, everything, it all makes a difference, right? But they do not have to calibrate every single time they sit in front of that device, but they do have to be positioned properly, okay? So you need to know how to do that. You're not going to begin with communication. Tammy, you talked about that, right? When you get the eye gaze device.
Yeah.
It's
It's about fun.
Yeah, you're not just, you're not gonna put an app in front of them and start communicating. It doesn't work like that. We're gonna make sure that there are certain, like, oftentimes, especially really little kids, they don't know that when they look at that screen, they're making something happen. So that's part of what you're doing. Oh my gosh, look, you made the balloon pop because you looked at it, right? They have to understand that, oh my gosh, when I look at it, something happens. That's where we're starting, right? And then you go through a series of games and activities that are kind of, they're in a hierarchy. So you'll start just with cause effect, kind of cool sensory, fun things, and then it'll get increasingly harder. So you're targeting, now you're controlling, and now you're choosing. So it gets harder and harder. However, I have to say that in my experience, if your child can target on those games, you can start communication. You do not need to go all the way through the hierarchy right down till the end. It's not necessary, and it can be painful, especially if they're not interested in those, right? In those activities. If you can, try at least 2 different devices. Try more than one app, at least look at them. Your SLP, like I know from with my colleagues at the back, we probably have every AAC app out there on our iPads or our computers. If you want to have a look at one, hopefully you have an SLP that can show them to you, right? Because there's so much. Some of them are definitely better than others, and honestly, this is a pet peeve of mine, but if someone says to you, use the Go Talk Now app, no. No, we are not going to use Go Talk for our AAC. So you want someone who has some knowledge of what the apps are. It's just a very basic app. It's not a robust communication system, and you want somebody who knows that, right? You're going to have a preference. Oh, my God, I forgot I have these. Okay, so I'm just going to show you a couple of games. So the one on the left is a Look to Learn game. So that's, Look to Learn is from Smartbox in the UK. And this is a 3-year-old who's doing this, okay? So all she's doing, I don't know, am I gonna be able to make it work? No, okay, hang on. Okay. So she didn't start here, but she loves this. So she has to look at each different part of this dinosaur, and when she does, she colors it a different color, right? You can't see her, but you'll see she's gonna, the spines are red, his belly is yellow, and now he's moving. Okay? She figured that out really, really quickly. Okay, and then this one is Tomoko. Is Tomoko made by PRC?
It was made by a company for Tomoko, but we purchased it.
Right, okay.
So we own the rights to the Tomoko for the accent.
So it'll come with the accent.
It does.
So my little ones absolutely love Tomoko. They love it. So here you'll see a targeting, and the targeting in this one has a couple of different levels. Like one of them is moving, right? So he's just looking at the monkeys, making them fall. One of the monkeys is swinging. So moving target's harder than a stationary target.
So that's a level 3 activity.
Yeah. So those are the kinds of things that you're starting with, right? So you're not starting straight away with a big page full of words. Yeah. And they love them. They love them. And so this is the other thing about high tech these days, right? It's not just about communication. It's about gaming. It's about leisure. It's about being able to look at YouTube when you want without having to ask someone, can I please watch this on YouTube? You know what? You can look at YouTube, and you can start YouTube, and you can look at the show you want, and you can start that show, and you can have Spotify, and you can text your friends, and you have social media. And I was talking to Arlene earlier, and for some of our older kids, that's how you hook them in. It's not with the communication, and it's not even with the games sometimes. For one of our 14-year-olds, it was texting. He was not interested until he learned his phone was hooked up to this device and he could text people, and then he went, oh my God. Right? Because he's 14. Right? And also just watching YouTube for him was huge. Huge. He can look at this device and he can start YouTube whenever he wants and get in trouble, as, you know, as he did, but that's also cool, right? That's what happens. Right, you're not supposed to be doing this. And he has a whole page full of curse words on his device, and he had to go to the principal's office and they called home. Yeah, and that's exactly what Mom did. She went, yes, that's what happened when my other kids got in trouble. That's what should happen to him, right? So this is the world now, right? And we want to give access to all of these things. Oh my gosh. I don't have any vision. Okay, I need one more too many now. Hang on. I'm going the wrong way. Hang on. I just have to make sure. I feel like I just hit the slot. Oh. There, okay. So yeah, so then choosing apps. Oh my. It used to be that you just got a device and it had what it had back in the day. And now it's not like that. Now you get a device and then you have to decide what kind of vocabulary, which vocabulary you want on it. There are so many. The most popular ones for me that I'm familiar with would be the Supercore series from Smartbox, which is the UK. Smartbox is from the UK. The TD series, so TD Snap, TD Motor Plan, and there is a Rett page that a speech pathologist in the States made. She made a Rett page. I have to be honest with you, I cringed at TD Snap until they came out with Motor Plan.
Yeah.
I wouldn't even use it. Like, no, we're not using TD Snap. Please don't use TD Snap. Anyhow, but it had its other benefits, and so they have a Motor Plan now, which looks a lot more like Touch Chat and Quo, so it's just much easier to work with than the original TD Snap was. Protocol to Go. I have a few kids that use the LAMP Words for Life series, but I don't find that one's as popular. I love it, personally. That's what are they all called LAMP Words for Life?
No, so there's Unity vocabularies, and they go
Unity.
from like 15, 28, 36, 45, 64, or 60,
They're not all called
84,
LAMP Words for Life.
60, 84. So there's different sizes. LAMP is like based on Unity vocabulary,
Right.
and there's lots of different sizes. LAMP is only available for iPad, iOS right now.
Oh.
They will be coming out with the Unity app
Okay.
at some point. So that will have the different sizes of vocabulary is available on iOS.
Right.
So that's where that kind of comes from, but it depends where you're at. I've tried to have lab trainings here. Lab is the second most popular besides Touch Chat, then Lab Words for Life
Right.
in Alberta.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
And I would say here that LAMP Words for Life is not as popular, ladies. You see, I have a few.
I don't know.
I have a few, and I have one using Core Scanner,
Yeah.
which is the most amazing scanning program I've ever used, and he's about to start using eye gaze, fingers crossed, so we'll have to.
It just depends if it's dedicated or iOS. Like when I went to summer camp, 22 kids were at summer camp. 21 of the kids were on either Touch Chat, Lab Words for Life, or Unity program, and then one was on both with the
Right. And so for some of you who aren't speech pathologists, you're probably like, wah, 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 wah.
Yeah.
What are they talking about? But that's the point, right? There's so many different apps and language systems. Yeah, and they're all different languages, and they have their pros and their cons. And your SLP is going to have a preference, and we're going to try really hard not to influence you with our preference and just let you, right? Because that's important, because you have to be comfortable with this app. Yeah. Yeah, you want to make sure that your app is robust. So again, you don't want something like Go Talk Now. Yes, I had that recommended once in a big team meeting, and I was like, yeah, no, that's not going to do. It won't do. We're not doing that, because all they really wanted to do was give the child a yes and no button, and a stop and a go, and more. And I'm like, no, that's not what we're doing. We don't even need a device for that. What? Right? Yeah. We don't need a device for that. So these are some examples of robust apps, and is this one on the left, is that the new Motor Plan? I know that's Motor Plan, but it's not a big page set,
That's 30,
That's
I think
smaller.
it's 32, I think it is.
Yeah, it looks like a 5x6 or
32
30. Yeah, this is Touch Chat right here,
And that's 60.
and this is one of the Supercores. That's a Supercore 50.
They're all separate.
Yeah. Yeah. So there are lots. There's just a lot to choose from. There's a lot to know. So a robust app. So with a robust app, you want to have core words. Core words are like sight words, little words like the and she and for, and verbs are core words. They're those words that we tend to use most often when we talk. So there's a core of about 300 of those words, right? I, you. And fringe words are mostly nouns, and they're things that are more topic specific, right? And so when we give our workshops to our EAs, what we tell them is like, we don't talk in fringe. If I was talking in fringe, I would say pen, paper, table, book, cup. And you would look at me like I was crazy, right? Because we don't talk like that. Most of the words we'll use will be core. I want a blue, all core. Cup is the only fringe, okay? So you want to make sure that there's a really robust core word system, because those are the most powerful words, and those are the ones we want to start using right away, right? You want to have a lot of word classes. You want nouns and verbs and adjectives and prepositions and pronouns, so that your child can say all the different things they want to say, right? You have to be able to use language for all the different reasons that we talk. You want to be able to make tense changes, right? Learning how to make the past tense by adding an ed, or a present progressive tense by adding an ing. What are you doing? Swimming. Right? You want to be able to add that ing. You want a motor plan, a system that's based on a motor plan. I also can't remember if anyone talked about that, but basically that means that the layout of the buttons on the page stay the same. We're not moving the buttons around, right? We don't want someone saying, oh my gosh, I don't really think the word and needs to be on the front page. I'm going to take that one off and I'm going to bury it, right? And move something else to the front page. We're not going to do that. We're going to keep the buttons where they are, because if any of you are typists, you know that you type without looking, and you learn to do that by practicing, and that is motor planning. Tying your shoes is motor planning. Driving a car is motor planning. Change something up in that whole sequence and you're lost, right? And it's the same, and it's for a child using AAC, and it's really important. And it doesn't matter whether they're using their fingers to select or their eyes to select. They automatically will learn where buttons are, and that makes them fast, and that makes them efficient, and that makes them accurate. And when you start moving buttons around on a page, or there's no plan to begin with, then that makes it harder for them, right? You don't want to make it harder for them. And you want to make sure that this system has an alphabet, so they should have access to a keyboard, and that keyboard should have word prediction, because once they start to learn to spell, and they can put, like, they can start with B, E, and then it's going to start popping up words, and it's going to say beach and beat, and they're like, oh my gosh, I want beach, and they can just look at beach now, and they don't have to finish spelling that word. We've just given them a shortcut. That's what we want, right? We want communication to be faster. We want it to allow for language growth. And that's where all your morphology and all your different word classes come in. Because yeah, you're going to start with one word, but you're not going to end there, right? Like Christinia was saying, that Kayla started with one word, and then you started to see two words, and now she does whole sentences perfectly, right? But you didn't start there. And the system has to allow for that to happen. Oh, and you want it to be easily customizable. I have to say that they mostly are now. It's not a pain to program any of these systems anymore. It used to be. It's not quite a pain. Really what we want is we want for our communicators to be able to say anything they want, whenever they want, right? No barriers. Okay, some things to keep in mind. We want to start early if we can. I know we can't always. It might be starting late, and that's okay. It's better late than never, right? But the earlier the better, because now you're maximizing language growth and language learning. Keep in mind that school age funding is significantly less than preschool funding as well, unfortunately. It's never too late. Develop and encourage that multimodal communication, right? It's not just one thing. And I already said this. I think this is the beauty of today. Like these systems today, you're giving someone the world at their fingertips now. right? There's no need to be cut off or disconnected anymore, and the levels of independence that are attainable, I think are just amazing. And I think it's just going to get better and better. Like, you can turn the lights on and off now. You can open the blinds and close the blinds. You can play with toys. I think Arlene's going to talk about that. Through your eye gaze device, right? So it really is, it's incredible what you can do. Okay, and that said, high-tech eye gaze might not be for everyone. Like, you might try it and it really might not work for your child, but you're never going to know that if you don't try. So it's really important, I think, to go through the trial if you can. Yeah, and hopefully everyone here will be able to connect with somebody now that will be able to guide them. That's what we're hoping, right? There's people out there who do this every day and are willing to help, right? Yeah, and lastly, it really is, I think Jennifer said this, it's not a sprint, it's a marathon, it's a journey. There's going to be bumps in the road and ups and downs. And I think maybe Tammy, you said, like, you might not find, well, maybe Kristen, yeah, said this too, like, you might not find the right system at first. You might, like, spend 2 years working on something and then go, oh my gosh, this is not working, we need to try something else, right? But it's not a lost 2 years because we've all learned something through that process, right? And things are changing so quickly these days with technology that I'm super excited. Like, if I'm still working in this field in 15 years, I imagine that it's going to look quite different for our kids that need to communicate using technology. I really do. It's going to be a whole new ballgame. Yeah. Anybody have any more questions about the funding of the trialing? Yeah.
Do services like Variety or C
Absolutely.
for devices?
Like, to buy them?
Yes.
They will not buy them. Mm,
No, you haven't found that?
No. No. Have you found that, Tammy?
I haven't tried. I
Yeah.
would expect there's a possibility. I mean, I'm optimistic. That is who I am. So I'm optimistic that
Yeah,
it's possible.
I've never heard of them funding a device. Yeah. But why not try? Like, I would try for sure. Yeah. Yeah. We definitely need more funding sources. Anybody else?